Listen, guys, Max Verstappen is in the middle of the most dramatic chapter of his entire career right now, and most people are completely missing what is actually happening behind the scenes. We are talking about a heartbreaking race defeat, a shocking team future crisis, and a warning from a Formula One legend that nobody expected. So stay with me, because this video is going to change how you see Max Verstappen completely. So let's start with what just happened last weekend, because honestly this one still hurts to talk about. Max decided to enter the legendary Nürburgring 24 Hours race during the F1 Gap Week, and hold on. His team was not just competing, they were absolutely dominating the entire field. They had built a massive 30-second lead over everyone else.
25 seconds ahead of the others.
There's Verstappen to the top of the screen.
Yeah, it was good initially.
And it genuinely looked like Max was going to pull off one of the most iconic wins in endurance racing history. But then everything fell apart in the worst possible way. With just 3 hours left in the race, co-driver Danny Juncadella started hearing strange noises from the rear of the car. First came an ABS warning, then vibrations started getting worse and worse, and before anyone could do anything about it, the rear right drive shaft completely snapped. The whole rear axle was destroyed, and the repair alone would take nearly an hour. That 30-second lead? Gone. That victory? Gone. Just like that. What makes this even more emotional is how Max responded after. He said he still enjoyed the experience and was grateful to his teammates, even though you could tell it was genuinely painful for him. His co-driver Juncadella said it hurts because they had a perfect race, and these things just cannot be controlled. But here is the thing, they have already hinted they are coming back to finish what they started. And honestly, after watching how Max performed out there, competing against Nürburgring specialists and handling traffic like a veteran endurance racer, you have to respect that completely. Now this leads us perfectly into the bigger picture, because the Nürburgring was not just a fun side project for Max. It was a signal, a very clear signal about how he is feeling about Formula One right now. And this is where things get really interesting. Red Bull's 2026 season has been a disaster compared to what we are used to seeing from them. Max himself has been extremely vocal about hating the new 2026 technical regulations. His own teammate Isaac Hadjar described the situation perfectly when he said the power unit is actually good, but the chassis is just terribly slow in corners. Max has been fighting for scraps of points while Mercedes and McLaren are running away with the championship. Kimi Antonelli is already sitting on 100 points, and Max is nowhere near that conversation. Now here is where it gets truly serious. Max reportedly has an exit clause in his Red Bull contract which activates if he is not in the top 2 of the championship by mid-season. And right now that does not look likely at all. Ralf Schumacher, a man who knows the F1 paddock inside out, has gone public saying that in his view Max will be looking elsewhere next year. He believes Max either walks away from Red Bull entirely or potentially leaves Formula One altogether, because Max has made it very clear that he finds the current era of F1 genuinely boring. That is not a small thing to say about a guy who just won 4 consecutive world titles. So naturally, when people hear Max might leave Red Bull, the first question everyone asks is Ferrari, right? Because that would be the most blockbuster move in Formula One history. But Ralf Schumacher has come out with a very direct warning, and it is more interesting than you think. Schumacher said that Ferrari is too complex and too political for someone like Max to simply walk in and take over. Max has spent his entire career at Red Bull where everything was built around him, where his engineer knew exactly what he needed, and where he had complete control over the direction of the car. Ferrari cannot offer that right now. You only have to look at what Lewis Hamilton is going through to understand exactly what Schumacher means. Even a 7-time world champion is still finding the adjustment genuinely difficult in his second year there. Schumacher actually pointed towards Mercedes or McLaren as the destinations that would truly suit Verstappen's working style. And Ford, who are Red Bull's future engine partner, made their own statement saying their commitment is to the team and the project, not to any single driver. Basically, Ford was sending a message that the Red Bull project continues with or without Max Verstappen. And speaking of Ferrari, let's talk about Lewis Hamilton, because his story connects to everything we just covered. Hamilton came into 2026 with real momentum after a brutal first season where he did not score a single podium across 24 races. This year he broke that drought at the Chinese Grand Prix and has genuinely been much closer to Leclerc in qualifying than he ever was in 2025. But the media narrative refuses to let him breathe. Former driver Nelson Piquet Jr. went on record saying Hamilton is clearly the number 2 driver at Ferrari and that Leclerc finishes ahead of him in roughly 80% of races. Team principal Fred Vasseur keeps insisting both drivers have equal opportunities, but the perception in the paddock has already shifted. Hamilton currently sits 5th in the championship on 51 points, while Leclerc holds 3rd with 59 points. Now all of this chaos leads us straight into this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix, and Circuit Gilles-Villeneuve is genuinely one of the most exciting venues to watch these storylines develop. Hamilton has won at this circuit 7 times in his career, and the low-drag layout actually suits Ferrari's current setup demands that Hamilton has been asking for. If any wet weather appears in Montreal, that only increases his chances even further. For Verstappen, Montreal is a brake-heavy circuit that will really test Red Bull's thermal management and reliability. The pressure on this weekend for both drivers could not be higher because every result now carries championship and career significance that goes well beyond just a points finish. Just so you have the full picture heading into Canada, Kimi Antonelli leads the championship with 100 points and is honestly driving like someone from a different planet right now. George Russell sits 2nd on 80 points. Leclerc is 3rd on 59. Norris and Hamilton are tied on 51 points. Mercedes has dominated every single race so far this season, and their lead in the Constructors' Championship is already a serious gap over Ferrari and McLaren. Okay guys, so to wrap everything up, what we covered today is genuinely the most important story in Formula One right now. Max suffered a brutal heartbreak at the Nürburgring after leading by 30 seconds and losing it all to a mechanical failure. His future at Red Bull is hanging by a thread with a real possibility he walks away entirely. Ferrari has been warned that bringing Max in would not solve their problems, and Hamilton is fighting every single week just to change the narrative around him at the Scuderia. My personal opinion is that Max Verstappen leaving Formula One entirely is more realistic than most fans want to admit right now. The way he talks about the current regulations and the way he threw himself into endurance racing this weekend tells you everything about where his head is at. And that brings me to my question for you, and I genuinely want to know what you think down in the comments. If Max Verstappen actually leaves Red Bull at the end of 2026, do you think he goes to Mercedes, retires completely, or do something we all least expect? Drop your answer below because this debate is just getting started.